The one movement pattern that you need to master is resisted wrist extension. The advice, just rest it, is not always the answer. Here are 2 reasons why. Number 1, if you just sit around and do nothing, the next time you have to go to use your arm, you're probably going to realize, hey, it actually takes even less to flare you up now than it did before you tried resting it for 2 weeks and not moving your arm. And you might realize that your arm still doesn't work. Number 2, it can waste a lot of time. Some people battle tennis elbow for years because they do just enough to irritate their arms, but not enough to actually get stronger and gain function. Very few people on planet Earth have the time or the freedom to rest their arms and not use their arms for weeks on end because they have jobs, hobbies. You can fill in the blank with a million things people would rather do than rest. Particularly resisted wrist extension when your arms are out away from your body, right there like you're riding a motorcycle. Why, you might ask? Primarily because of one muscle, your extensor carpi radialis brevis, which attaches to your lateral epicondyle and travels down your forearm and inserts to the base of your third metacarpal. Therefore, that muscle is primarily responsible for wrist extension. This is also important because this is the same muscle that causes most of the pain associated with tennis elbow. The best wrist extension exercises for tennis elbow. With each of the dumbbell exercises, I would shoot for 10 to 20 reps. The idea is progressive overload. You're gradually making these harder and harder. Put your palm down, take your wrist down to up, working on resisted wrist extension for this one. Grip it as tight as you can without any pain, and move it as far as you can without pain. Another tip when you're doing those, you may have to use your good hand to help up in wrist extension. So you place it up there, and then you eccentrically control as your wrist flexes. So you push it up, and then control it on the way down. If you're having a lot of trouble doing it just yourself, then that's another way you can try it. Also, if you're really struggling with these, don't use any weight at all. Just make a tight little fist and just work on moving your wrist in those directions, 10 to 20, gradually building it up. A more advanced version of the wrist extension curl, lean back away from something, straighten your arm out, and just hang the edge of your wrist off the object. Get that elbow straight, and then do your wrist curls from there. That makes the ECRB muscle even more vulnerable. It puts the extensors of your forearm on stretch and allows you to get an even better contraction. Same motion, just with your elbow on stretch. Another common complaint with tennis elbow is people have trouble reaching away from their body and picking something up, squeezing something out away from their body, and then pulling it and lifting it. So in order to directly train that, we've got to actually do that kind of motion. Start with the towel. Make this really light. Pinch the towel like this. Take your fingers like a puppet muscle almost. Pretend like you're a puppet. Squeeze the towel. Put your arms out away from your body. Squeeze your hands, not too tight, and just practice a couple lifts like that. Out away from you, practice lifting it. Gotta gain that motion back. Keep this super light. You can progress that one a little bit, but you'll never be doing much weight with that one. It's more about just moving it that way. Oftentimes, the easiest exercise to start with for beginners and for people who have really serious tennis elbow, keep that elbow bent and by your side rather than out straight, because remember, when you're out straight, that makes it harder. So keep that elbow in by your side, keep your wrist neutral, keep it straight. Take your unaffected hand, gently push a little bit of force through the back of your hand, and just isometrically resist the force through the back of your hand. Don't let your wrist move. Hold that about 15 to 30 seconds. You're not trying to put a lot of force through it. You're just gently putting force through it there. You can also, another isometric exercise you can do, take you a little piece of TheraBand, hook it around something. Keep that wrist nice and straight like we talked about, nice and straight. Glue your elbow to your side, keep your elbow bent at 90 degrees. Pretend like this hand is what the TheraBand is hooked around, and we're strengthening this hand. So, and then you gradually sidestep away from the band, holding that position there, isometrically strengthening the extensors of the forearm. Over a few seconds, you'll start feeling it burn kind of through here. Hold that about 15 to 30 seconds. Also use a dumbbell. Try to get as heavy as you can without recreating your symptoms. This is actually an isometric exercise for strengthening your forearm, and you're keeping your wrist neutral like we've already practiced. So that just means keeping your wrist nice and straight. So it's a kettlebell swing. Your arm actually functions as a chain. There's many muscles that are involved as you travel up all the way to your shoulder, even into your back. And you start with hanging the dumbbell down like this, wrist straight, and you kind of hinge at your hips. So you swing it back and hinge up. Keeping the wrist straight, isometrically contracting your forearm muscles as you do this. And you can rep those out. You can do 20 to 50 reps of that. Progressive overloads, you're trying to make it heavier and heavier and worse. You go palms down, start out, curl out to in, out to in. It's a brachialis curl. Keep your wrist neutral, keep it straight, and don't load that one up with too much weight. Overcoming tennis elbow requires you to challenge yourself in a controlled, relatively pain-free way. So what does that mean? That simply means that you need to train controlled wrist extension with your arms out away from your body in a super light, pain-free way. You will master that movement.